Hey, what's up guys, my name is Charlie. Today we're going to be doing some more requested reaction videos, and this video was requested by Jay the Man, and it's going to be Johnny versus the Bubsy series. Oh boy, I'm very familiar with the Bubsy series. I believe the PlayStation 1 Bubsy 3D is the one I remember the most. That was god-awful. It was god-awful, but in a good way. It was so bad it was good. So yeah, it was a very strange phenomenon, so to speak. But I do remember James and Mike Mondays, them sitting down playing the classic Bubsy games. I think we did a reaction to those. So yeah, it's going to be pretty cool to see what other Bubsy series and games there are. But yeah, let's check out the video, shall we? Let's go.
I cannot begin to tell you how long I've been meaning to get to Bubsy. At the same time, though, I wasn't in any real rush.
Bubsy the
Bubsy,
Bobcat,
now,
I think.
I've known about this Bobcat since the mid-90s.
Bobcat,
Watching
yeah.
my uncle play it a few times, I wasn't very interested in what I was looking at.
Yeah, I
Which
wasn't
because
really.
I was usually always anxious to try what my uncle played, but Bubsy was just not hitting any of the right spots, so I passed on it. And then a fan donated the first game to me, and I thought, okay,
boy.
this is it. I think it's time to look at
A
Bubsy.
fan donated
And that was part
game
of the reason
for you.
why this video took so long. You know, getting all the games.
Is it a
for this
blessing
thing,
or a
that,
curse?
I caught a cold after coming back from PAX season, and that was fun. But you guys have waited long enough. It's time for Bubsy, and we're looking at them all.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
You know how in today's generation there seems to be a surplus
What's
or
that
in some of the
Bubsy on
viewpoints
Game
an
Boy?
oversaturation of games in one genre like first-person shooters for instance? Well, in the 90s that was the same deal with the mascot platform game. After Mario and Sonic there were an immeasurable number of shots to capitalize on their success, and some of them were not so
Wally
bad, but there
Bear,
were a
the
lot
no-
of failures.
Yeah.
I sort of
God.
wanted to dedicate a marathon to
Remember
mascot
that.
platform games just to see if any of them held up, you know, maybe find some diamonds in the rough. I don't see it happening for a while, but Bubsy's getting this special treatment now. I never liked the shape of these Genesis cartridges. They usually spelled bad news from experiences, but that's just a coincidence most likely. Bubsy the Bobcat was the creation of the now ironically titled Accolade. He liked to collect balls of yarn and he had a thing against these alien creatures called woolies. There's nothing really special with the storyline, and I mean that for every Bubsy game. They're all pretty simple. The emphasis was more on the wisecracks and the obliteration of the fourth wall. Bubsy didn't pack so much of an attitude, but he had a mouth, and he had no problem letting you know what he thought about the current situation, whether you wanted to hear it or not.
Hey, I didn't write this stuff.
It's not like Bubsy constantly flaps his gums when you're playing as him. He doesn't quip about who he just jumped on. He doesn't say bounce tree when you jump off of a tree. But he does say something whenever you start a stage, whether you enter it for the first time or die. And that's where you'll start getting annoyed, because Bubsy dies very easily. The Bobcat can't afford to get hurt, like, at all. He get hits once, that's it. He falls down, he tumbles, he falls apart, he drowns, and even melts. He also can't fall for too long, otherwise that
Or
kills
is he the
him
Wicked
too.
Witch of the
Bubsy
West?
can
I
glide
mean,
to
I
soar
don't
across
get it.
terrain, and you can use that to save yourself
Water
from
melts
fall
it.
damage, because for some reason in this game, landing on your gut is safer than landing on your feet. There are power-ups, but they're exceedingly rare, very hard to find. They only last for a few seconds, and it doesn't save Bubsy from everything, namely environmental hazards. Okay, so Bubsy is frail. That just means I gotta play it safe, and that's when I found out that I couldn't play it safe even if I tried, and I got a checklist here. The first thing that raised a red flag for me was how close the camera was to Bubsy. Is it even accurate to call it a camera in a 2D game? I guess sprite size would be more on point. And in that case, everything is too big for my liking, and when that's a problem, it leads to a bunch of other problems, such as being unable to see where everything is. If you leave the game running long enough at the title screen, you get this small tutorial sequence that somewhat encourages you to always take a look at your surroundings, and Bubsy can do just that by holding up or down on the D-pad, and you can hold down the C button to pan the camera in any direction you want. So I'm assuming they want me to take a slow, methodical approach with Bubsy, and that would be fine if Bubsy didn't jump so goddamn high and move as fast
Or it
as
could be
Sonic.
an Easter egg
Bubsy's
message.
quick on his feet, but this level design
never
was
know.
not built with that speed in mind, and with this high jump,
Be
it's
a
nearly
secret
impossible to
message.
tell where you're going to land because of, again, how close this camera is in relation to Bubsy. Even the look-around feature doesn't show you everything, and that really bites you in the ass later on. The bottom line is that there's plenty of leaps of faith, enemies coming out of nowhere, and
Heaps
combined
of
with Bubsy's
faith.
utter lack of
I
hit
remember
points, this means a
those,
lot
Jesus.
of this and a lot of this.
More like a bridge too short.
You have 9 lives per run, way more than your average platformer, but then you begin playing the game and start to wonder
Whoa,
if that
it's
was
like
a last
fucking
minute change or some
Sonic
sort of
Blast.
half-assed effort to circumvent the bullshit kids would go through
Mechanics,
without having to overhaul core aspects of the game.
it's like
Continues
fast
need to be found
speeds.
if you want to keep playing the current stage when you eventually waste those lives, but there's also a password system you can use to do pretty much the
I
same
hate
thing.
password
Completing the adventure
screens.
is only a matter of time in that regard, but that's if you decide not to put the game down after the first zone. I honestly wanted to, damn it, but I pressed on, and to my displeasure, I discovered that Bubsy didn't get any better. All those problems that I mentioned before, you start to experience them very early on, and it just never seems to improve. The pain of death, limited views, level design that can't decide on whether Bubsy should go fast or not. Every level has these problems, and some have their own exclusive issues. Check this out right here. I'm in this canyon area, I get a checkpoint, and I end up dying later on, and when I respawned, I was placed right on top of an enemy.
Oh,
Wonderful
that
enemy
sucks.
placement there, truly.
Yeah,
that's
that's
some gold X
cheap.
award material shit. Bubsy has no problem reusing tons of set pieces within the same zone to pad levels out, making the game longer for arbitrary reasons. If you felt like you've been here before, that's probably because you were there in a different location 1 minute ago, and every setback you had there, you're gonna have here. And I realize that's nothing new. Mario and Sonic did that plenty of times, but that was more on the look of the level rather than the actual construction. Again, I bring up the canyon level. Every stage in this zone begins with this train sequence. You get to the
Reminds me
front,
of the
jump out of the
Indiana
train, you enter
Jones
the
train.
canyon area, and then by the next stage, you're
fucking
back on the
thing
train
where you
again
have to
for some
whip the
reason,
boss
only to
a
jump out
thousand
of it
times
again
to kill it.
to head back to the canyon again. The imagination levels here weren't very high at this point, I'd imagine. This is how I play Bubsy. I just carefully jump around all over the place and constantly stop to look at things with the camera pan, because if I attempt something as simple as running on the floor, I'm going to collide with something that'll suddenly appear on screen, and at times I can't even get away with that because something could be lurking above Bubsy, and the only way I'll see it is by dying from it. Plus, Bubsy likes to hold on to what little momentum he has whenever he gets some, regardless of your directional input. This leads me to drift slightly left or right when I mean to be careful, and that often spells out trouble with tiny platforms like these. It's not just a matter of how the levels look that bore me, it's this method of playing the game that makes all these stages feel like one collective group of bleh, and I'm only doing it this way just to survive. Making Bubsy as fragile as he is here was the biggest boneheaded move this game could possibly make. Does this look like I'm having fun?
Oh, are you still playing this thing?
You little shit.
Wow.
Well, I guess Bubsy doesn't want me to play the game anymore, so I'll do just that.
Yeah, fuck it. Fuck him,
Now,
fuck Bubsy.
Eventually, Bubsy 1 would see a re-release on the PC in 1995, and it's really the only thing I'm not covering for this video. As far as I'm
Super
aware,
Bubsy.
it's just Bubsy 1 on computers. But it did have something that the Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis versions didn't have,
What?
and that was an animated pilot of a Bubsy cartoon that never saw the light of day that was television broadcast.
Wow.
And as soon as you watch it, which you can easily find on YouTube, you'll see why. This surpasses any definition or interpretation of painful. It's like everything wrong with a 90s animated cartoon. You got limited animation, pitifully corny jokes with no sense of subtlety or dignity for that matter. And they somehow got Rob Paulson to do this shit. Rob Paulson, the voice of Yakko, Pinky, Dr. Otto Scratch and stuff, he must have
Damn.
had some high-end bills to pay that year. And yeah, he technically started voicing Bubsy since the first game. He's the one who supplied the lines. But this is a 24-minute cartoon. The shit that comes out of Bubsy's mouth is wretched. He's more insufferable than appealing, and he's the star of this damn thing.
Well, it was like Garfield the
I think
cat,
he says that in every scene he's
not
in.
a lot of
one
people
form or
like
another. It's
Garfield
not
the
even
cat.
funny and pretty sad in hindsight. The only thing I can somewhat relate to is this armadillo guy who wants nothing to do with what's going on and gets dragged into the mess because Bubsy won't leave him alone. The problem is, while that was the point of the armadillo's role in this story, it unfortunately hits too close to home for me in a meta
Armadillo's
sense.
brown.
I also want nothing to
Not
do
blue.
with Bubsy, but he insists on sticking around like genital herpes. As such, Bubsy 2 for the Genesis. Bubsy, I'm over here, buddy. You're sort of looking the wrong way, dude. Oh, you motherfucker. Now, the one thing I sort of found likable about Bubsy 2 from the get-go was not from the game, but rather its manual. They went out of their way to make a short comic explaining events that
that's
lead up to the
nice.
game. The writing is about the same quality as the cartoon, but I appreciate the artistic effort. It looks like it had more care put into it than anything else.
Yeah,
It's
not a
much,
lot of
but it's an
games
interesting
do
way to
that,
deliver a
have a little
prologue. I'll give a
comic.
compliment when I can, folks. Bubsy's already striking out big time for me. Sadly, this little comic is the
Oh,
best thing
send
about
it.
Bubsy 2 for me, because the game does not do much to improve anything. Okay, it does one thing right. It gives Bubsy a health meter. I think you can get hit 3 times before Bubsy dies, so off the bat your life expectancy is longer by default, and you can collect bandages to restore your health. Everything
Nice.
else though, Bubsy falls a little faster now when jumping, but since he's still packing that speed, this only leads to very spastic movement. The camera's still too close, and though the level variety is a little better, I'm still fumbling around places and hoping to God I don't land on something that'll kill me in one hit or lead me on the wrong pathway. Accolade made a deal with Nerf to give Bubsy a Nerf gun to deal with enemies. You gotta find it first,
Nerf
it's a
gun.
power-up
Fucking
after all,
Nerf
but it's about
guns.
as effective as shooting someone with an actual Nerf gun. They couldn't give Bubsy
You
a
can't
rapid-fire
really
model. I wanna get Rambo
blow
in
up
this son of
a
bitch.
heavy
Hell, give me
metal
shit Emperor's
machine
Urge
with
using
a
Toy
fucking
Story 2.
rubber ball. So,
I can see glimmers of a solid game with Bubsy too, giving him a health bar and an attempt at giving him weapons and bonus games to score extra lives. But most of the major problems with the original Bubsy weren't fixed, and since you guys already know what I hate about the first game, explaining them again here would only be redundant. Still, I should probably look at Bubsy 2 for the Game Boy anyway.
oh yeah, the Game Boy.
Bubsy Tooth? Oh wait, that's a trademark symbol. Well, it's about what I expected, a watered-down version of Bubsy 2.
Oh,
There were
boy.
5 worlds to explore in the console game. This version only has 3, and hot damn, this game looks desolate. There's a black void for a background in every stage. It's like this entire game takes place in a cave. Bubsy jumps like he's in space, extremely high and extremely slow. I think fall damage was removed, but I'm getting hurt by other means anyway, like
Looks
pushing
better
more
than
hit
fucking
detection
Crazy
and going
Castle.
brain dead from the spacious
You know
design.
those-
It may not be obvious, but
so
there's an
many
actual
Crazy
level below
Castle
me, but I
games.
can just ignore the entire thing because of my moon
crazy
jumping
how many
glide.
fucking games
and
they
there you
made.
go, the end of the stage and the end of my curiosity.
Now,
think
this
they
really
all-
took me
they
by
made it all the
surprise.
way
There
to
was a
fucking
Bubsy
Woody
game
Woodpecker.
for the Atari Jaguar. This was
Angry
not as
Video
easy to
Game
find
Nerd
compared
did a
to Bubsy
review
2
on
or
that.
3D, and even then, I don't own a Jaguar. But I couldn't just ignore this and head straight to 3D, so I asked for some assistance this time, and thanks to my uncle, here we go. The Atari Jaguar.
Oh
A
boy.
64-bit system that had qualities
Yeah,
but ultimately failed
I'm
to find
very
audience.
familiar with it.
Another victim of the 90s console wars. Look at this. It
The
even has
toilet.
the Jaguar CD attachment, which I'm pretty sure doesn't work. I'm geeking out just looking at this thing. I used to play Tempest 2000 on this a long time ago. I think right when the system came out. Uncle, thank you so much for the loan so that I could look at the next Bubsy game. You didn't have to lend me your entire Jaguar library of games, though I am slightly curious.
Cybermorph. Oh no. Where did you learn how to fly? God.
But anyway, this fucking game. You know when Bubsy 2 was released? October of 1994. Bubsy for the Jaguar? December of 1994. While Accolade was busy making the sequel, they had someone else make another game for a different system. I can just smell the budget cuts. And apparently there was no collaboration between Accolade and Magic Tech Design because instead of trying to improve from Bubsy 1, they decided to just give us Bubsy 1 with all of its problems, now with unnecessarily huge levels. Bigger
God,
is not always
sounds
better,
like
people.
fucking
It takes
Bethesda.
an eternity to clear these stages. After
Same
I crossed the
fucking
7th
glitches
checkpoint, I
and
start to wonder what the end of the
broken
damn stage is.
mechanics
And
over
their
and
method
over
of
in every
expanding
single
levels was
game,
not
and they
only
won't
just
fucking
reusing
patch
shit,
that
but
shit.
stretching out what's already there and filling the numerous gaps with nonsensical structures.
Fallout comes
What
to
am I
mind.
traveling on here? This isn't level design. This just looks like something a 5-year-old made with a stage generator in Smash 4. And I wished it would end already. By that I mean actually finishing a level instead of just getting whacked by something off screen. This game, above all other Bubsy titles, is positively rancid with that, as well as awful collision detection. And since Bubsy's back to being a one-hit point pussy, it's safe to assume over half of your adventure would just be staring at title cards and listening to what Bubsy has to say.
Oh, sure. Let's all torch the Bubster.
But here's what's most disappointing about this one. By the third game, you should have something that works, simultaneous development or not.
Yeah.
Super Mario Bros. 3, Sonic 3, need I say more?
Something
Where was
should
the quality
work, the
control? Wasn't there
mechanics.
someone or something out there that said, hey guys, maybe we should just slow it down a bit? We're already releasing the second Bubsy game just a year after the first one, but now we're giving them 2 games?
But yeah,
Between
they did that
1993
same
and
with,
1996, there
you
were
know,
4 Bubsy games released.
Crazy
if you want to count
Castle.
the Game Boy version of
So-
Bubsy 2 and the PC port of the original Bubsy, that's 6 fucking games.
That's a lot.
Accolade's slogan was games with personality, and Bubsy sure does have a personality. And you know, there's nothing wrong with that, but it feels like the character was more important than the actual game quality. Bubsy is the pits, and the only reason why I'm not going all apeshit is because I didn't really have any sort of expectations for any of this. Maybe a bit for Bubsy 2 and the Jaguar game, but only because I naturally expected a sequel to be an improvement, and no, these are certainly not.
Listen to me. It sounds like I'm ending the video here. I haven't even looked at Bubsy 3D yet.
Oh,
The last
God.
of the Bubsy
No.
games And the Bobcat shift.
Give this
to
a skip.
3D.
Give this a skip, please. Oh God.
Yep, it's 3D, all right. It's 3D and almost
Here
nothing
we
else.
go.
Just look at this, folks. This is what you
Fucking
present as a midterm project in a 3D class. Your first 3D class. There's nothing here. Just the most basic
know.
of shapes and constructs.
just don't get
Actual
this
textures
game.
are about as rare
It's
as
so
blue moons.
bad, but
Sometimes
so
there's no
good.
graphics at all. It's unreal that this was considered passable for the PlayStation in 1996, no less. We had Super Mario 64. We had Crash Bandicoot. What the fuck happened here? And this
Yeah,
is just
it's
on looks. You want to
bizarre.
talk about the actual game? Jesus Christ. A 3D platformer with tank controls. And tank controls are something I can get
I
past if
remember the
game is designed
camera
around
was
it. Look
stuck
at Croc
for
Legend of the
me,
Goblins. It hasn't aged
and
well
it
in
was,
some
like,
areas, but I can play this
spazzing
game
out
no
and
problem.
glitching.
Tank controls and all because it's
I
designed
remember
with
that
that
when I was
control scheme
playing
in
Bubsy,
mind. Bubsy
3D
3D,
for the
fuck no.
PlayStation.
It's just a shitload of wide open space with painfully bare foundations. Floating platforms because yes, basic collectibles because it's on their contract, and maybe a boss fight every once in a while. But what I'm doing here, this is it. And somehow they managed to even mess that up at points with level constructions which will only
Oh,
work
boy.
if Bubsy had appropriate controls. And then there's the complete disregard of cohesion with things like Bubsy's Glide. You can glide on propeller fans to get higher distances. Did you also know you can do that with the boss's gun residue? No? What are you, stupid? Of course you
Wow.
can do that. Come on. You can't control the camera.
haven't
so as
really got
opposed to
that
make up
far
for that,
into
your
the
view
game, so-
automatically focuses on the ground whenever Bubsy jumps. You know, to help see where you're going, which totally doesn't disorient you. Jumping is also one of the only ways you can kill things without
Reminds me
finding
of,
a
like,
proper power-up,
Psychonauts.
which are once again
What
rare,
was that
but you'll
game?
probably end up taking a hit
Psychonauts
most
or
of the
something
time
like
because
that.
it's
That
nearly impossible to
Psycho
line up a jump
nutty game,
correctly
you
when
know
the camera
what I'm
suddenly
talking
decides
about.
to shift whenever you do so. Other concepts they introduce are just as broken as anything else, whether it's because of control issues or because of lack
that
of
was a
flying,
good
like
game,
these
that
underwater
Psychonaut
sections.
game
I could
thing.
just swim to the goal, no worries about threats, no worries about drowning. They're just inconsequential changes of scenery. Bubsy 3D looks and feels like a concept of a platform game that was created before Super Mario Bros. Went and changed the industry in 1985. This is wrong on so many levels. So many levels. In retrospect, though, there's something in me that kind of finds the Jaguar game worse. Don't misunderstand. I didn't have a good time with any of these games, but Jaguar Bubsy actively angered me with how backwards it was. Bubsy 3D is on an entirely different level,
It's so
but
bad,
during
it's
that
good.
process of reaching that bizarre inverted nirvana, it managed to achieve a quality that's so horrendously awful that it needs to be played to be believed.
Yeah,
I also spent
you
more to get
need to
Jaguar
play it to
Bubsy compared to
believe it.
Bubsy 3D, so that may have something to do with it as well. Bubsy, should you ever find yourself back from the dead, just learn that these are not how you make a successful series. What could possibly go wrong? This is what can go wrong.
I want to take this time to
Yes.
thank the person who donated me the first Bubsy game to finally get this ball
Yeah,
rolling.
thank him for
And,
that.
the marathon's almost over, folks. There's only a handful of games left. So, with that said, I'll see you guys next week with X-Men Legends 1 and 2 for the Nintendo GameCube. In the meantime, I appreciate your patience for waiting this long,
Okay.
after the Echo the Dolphin review. You guys have yourselves a great night. Thank you for watching, and take care.
Adieu, kebab. God. Okay. Okay, that's the end of the video. Bubsy, I just don't get it. I mean, I remember playing the PlayStation Classic of Bubsy 3D. That's the most I've ever played from the Bubsy series. But yeah, I remember the camera spazzing out when I was playing it, and it was stuck. It was spazzing out, and I just had to restart the game because it was just broken. Not that the game was already broken already. I mean, the game's a piece of shit. But you know what they should do? They should remaster the Bubsy 3D game. Not that you can improve anything upon it. It's a piece of shit. But they should release it for the PlayStation 4, just for kicks, just for a fucking laugh. Can you imagine that coming out now? The Bubsy 3D game, remastered textures, even more shittiness to it. And they should release that for the PlayStation 4. I think that would be a good idea. I would pay for it. I would. I would happily pay for the Bubsy 3D for the PlayStation 4. It being absolutely god-awful terrible. Yeah. If you like this video, make sure to give a like, comment down below, make sure to subscribe to my channel if you enjoy my content. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.